Okay, welcome back to Blake's Craft Beer Podcast, episode 42. This is part 3 of the Craft Beer Summit Cincinnati panel. I hope you guys have been enjoying them so far. I'm excited for this one. This is the Cincinnati panel. Some of you guys you might have heard on this podcast, some of you might not. So please introduce yourself and tell me your roles.
Tracey, Vice President of Marketing at Rhinegeist Brewing.
I'm Travis Houston. I'm a sensory specialist at Rhinegeist.
I'm Hannah Kent with Urban Artifact, brew house operations lead.
I'm Brittany Frey from Madtree Brewing and I'm the head brewer.
Kelly Montgomery, Third Eye Brewing, brewer.
Hey, I'm Max Fram with 50 West Brewing Company. I'm the Vice President of Strategy and Operations.
How are you guys all today?
Good.
Great.
Thanks for having us, Blake.
Yeah,
Tracey, Travis, tell me your how you got into Rhinegeist a little bit and
Tell you about Rhinegeist. Well, we're gearing up for 2025.
How you got into it?
Oh, how I got into it? Oh, well, I've been here 9 years, which is a long time. But I stumbled across, 2015, and really was doing a lot of work with advertising agencies in town, and saw Rhinegeist and just fell in love with the brand, and quite frankly the design ahead of beer. I wasn't such a savvy beer drinker back in those days, but somehow got hired, and I've been here for 9 years.
So I'm Travis. I actually originally double majored in neuroscience and psychology and did medical research. I did not enjoy doing that. I was working at Children's, so I walked out one day, literally quit my job on the spot, and got a job doing chemistry at Sam Adams, being their analytical chemist. So I was there for about 2 years. Then I left there to go to Wild Flavors, where I was a quality control chemist for 6 years. So I had to taste every single thing there, with the goal of becoming a sensory specialist at a brewery. And so just about 8 years ago, I applied here. I've been here since February of 2017. So I do a lot of stuff. I do just a lot of random lab work and a lot of stuff with a lot of different departments. So.
Nice. Nice to meet you. I'm glad you guys are here for this. So 2024, in one word, how would you describe it? It could be more than one word, but.
Well, you guys all say Cincy Lane.
Yeah.
It's 2 words.
I'd say for Madtree, it's just been adapting.
Yeah, definitely the same for Urban, just adapting and I forgot the word.
It'll come to you.
Yeah. At the end of it.
For 50 West, I'm going to say constructive, because we spent almost the entire year constructing a new brewery.
Place is nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is.
I'd say from Third Eye, we were a brew pub from the beginning, and then this whole year we've opened up kind of a distribution. So it's been a lot of changes, a lot of different things. Just going from a brew pub to a distribution. So it's
I remembered the word. Resilient.
Nice.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
So let's start with your word, Hannah. So how in 2024 have you guys had to do that? And that's for everyone as well.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's just rolling with punches. Whether it's taproom sales or weird distribution laws, the port shutdowns affecting costs of everything, including transportation of goods, and just working with what we can have access to and what is affordable, but also making sure that we're thinking for the future.
We're kind of in the same boat as Urban. It's just, understanding what's going on in the world and how that's affecting our business, making sure that we're still producing quality product for our community and everyone around it, but also just trying to adapt to what we see the trends are coming to in the future too. Making sure we're making strategic decisions every day to make sure that we're still a a growing company next year and beyond.
I think resilience is a really important word. I think it encapsulates the spirit of craft in general, but also, I guess, anybody operating in craft in Cincinnati or outside of Cincinnati is dealing with a lot of change and uncertainty. Economic pressures. The category has been in decline. There's so much choice out there for consumers. It's an interesting time in craft. I would say it's a challenging time for sure.
Yeah, it's hard to be a craft brewer right now. I mean, there's like changing consumer preference. I think the tap rooms are still the heartbeat though. So we're hyper focused at trying to serve our community, and like grow that piece of it. Like how do we serve our community, and how do we like let them use our space as their own, and in the way that they want a brewery to operate for them. Because it's getting harder and harder at large at distribution. So I think craft beer as a whole is probably like looking a little inward right now.
Yeah, from Third Eye point of view, I mean, we were maxed out in Sheridanville for production-wise the last couple of years. There's no more ability to put a new tank into the tap room. So we opened up the production facility. We've grown a lot, but we also have to. We opened up our production facilities, bars, restaurants, working on probably Kroger and Spring Set, some new states, just opportunities that weren't available to us in previous years. So we never really had to deal with. We haven't dealt with the good times or the bad. This is the only thing we know. We opened up during COVID with the tap room, and then kind of opened up our production facility sort of in kind of a downturn of craft beer. So we'll grow this year. I don't know what it would have been or could have been in previous years. We'll grow this year.
Because sadly, the past 2 weeks you've seen people closing, selling, or some just sold. Taft's just freshly sold to Cincy Bev. Where does that keep you in your guys' minds on how to keep growing in this climate of change? And
I mean, I think it just goes back to like making the best decisions for your business. Like Taft's did sell their brand, but they're still operating as a contract brewer, or they're not doing beer, they're doing non-beer products, but that's where they saw their business was thriving, so they made a business decision. It sucks to see that brand go away, but in the end of the day, they did what's best for them and their people, so I applaud them for that. It was not an easy decision, I'm sure. I think that just kind of goes back to like what we've all been saying is we're diving into what's doing good for us as each different entity here, and making sure that tomorrow we still get to turn our lights on.
I'd say with our location, we have difficulty filling the tap room if there's not an event downtown. So if there's a Bengals game or something, soccer game, lots of people here. But on a random Wednesday, it's hard to get people to the tap room. So we've been trying to focus heavily on bringing customers in. It's just difficult.
It's interesting to see how the landscape's changed amongst all the Cincinnati breweries and the different models, right?
Yeah, I think Brittany said it really well.
Yeah.
It's like we all kind of like dove into what we did well and kind of like chose our own path. Which is has been fun to see.
It is interesting to see. And who knows what will happen with the Sinbev purchase of the Taps brands.
I think that important context though is that like they chose a more successful side of their business. Like Whit's a friend of mine, so I feel some need to like like bring that to light that there is more context there, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're doing fantastic as a business. They just had to.
It's certainly not that the test brand failed to the other brand.
Yeah,
It's way more successful.
did a lot better with Test. So it is sad to lose Tap.
Yeah.
I liked Camelback here as a group.
And it's just not them, 16 lots just did what they did and stuff like that, and there is a worry out there right now.
I think at this point in the Cincinnati craft brewing scene, that the breweries that are here are there's a reason why we're still here. Like, we're forward thinking, we are resilient, we're wanting to make sure that our own employees are taken care of and they're happy and content, and I think that's there is a reason why we're here, and making those decisions while on the outside looking in, people may disagree with the decisions that a brewery makes, but at the end of the day, this is what the brewery's mission is, and this is how we're going to fulfill that mission, whether it's contract brewing. I mean, Urban does contract brewing and contract packaging, and there are a few times where I'm sure it's saved our own hide. It's just important for people not in the craft brewing scene to realize that we don't make those decisions all willy-nilly.
I stumbled across that website the other day. What is it called?
Niche.
That's what it was.
Yeah. So ever since we got the pasteurizer, which is just a monstrosity,
Massive.
it's gigantic.
Like, I saw a picture of you guys put on Instagram, and I was like, holy crap, even if
Yeah.
I wanted that,
So
I couldn't afford it. Like, I can't
I know, I was like,
It took all day to get it into the brewery, and it was not an easy feat. There was probably maybe half an inch on either side of the pasteurizer itself, bare bone pasteurizer, to go into the other side where it is now. And it's gigantic, but it has opened the doors for us for not even just that, a lot of like different brands that we've been able to come out with, a lot of different things that we've been able to mess around with, which is really what Urban is all about. Like, in my opinion, we're a FAFO, like, fuck around and find out. Like, we did the seltzers, we have Costallo, the THC beverages, which are freaking delicious. I'd never had one before. I'd never consumed any CBD or THC or whatever, and I had the grape soda one, and oh my. I'm 5'2", and I ate a whole large pizza by myself. But yeah, I think it's just, at the end of the day, people need to remember that none of us are corporate entities. We're just here trying to survive and thrive, I think, is what the Urban Artifact motto was for 2021, survive and thrive. We're still doing that. We're still surviving and we're still thriving, and hopefully that's what the Cincinnati beer scene still does.
But I think Cincinnati in a whole has always been resilient on anything. So I think it just comes from who you guys are. I'm hybrid. I'm dating Cincinnati, so I can't really claim as Cincinnati, but I come down here more times than not. But are you guys tired of resilient a little bit? It was first it started with 2020, and now we're into this. So you feel like something has to come up to where you guys.
Don't you think that? So in the early days, 23 through, I don't know, 2013 through 2019, before we all had to deal with COVID. I mean, that was the craft beer boom. So we were also, everybody was probably surviving too, because we're trying to get the funding, we're trying to get the equipment, we're trying to meet demand, we're trying to figure out not only how to brew, but how to operate as a business and how to communicate with one another. And so there's that resilience in surviving, right? Where it was a little more exciting because the growth, was more organic in the category as well. But the entire, I don't know how businesses, are we tired? Yes, but I think resilience is a key attribute of every business.
I mean, if you had asked me when I started here years ago if we would launch a light lager to compete with the macros, I'd have said you're insane. And yet here we are with Cincy Light being the thing that kind of gave us the ability to not just be bobbing our heads above water. You know, like it truly gave us the ability to like actually start looking at other things and possibly actual expenditure and things. We didn't have to freeze spending on new equipment and things.
And that's amazing. You guys say that when you have truth that is like all above, you know.
Which is still outsells Cincy Light, don't get me wrong, but Cincy Light just came out of nowhere. We had no idea it was going to be what it is. And it's kind of unique because we don't fully control the marketing for it. Since Cincy Light is its own, Cincy Reigns is its own entity. We work with them a lot, so it's also very different. She can speak much more on this than me. It's a very different thing than anything else we've ever done.
Do you want to speak?
Sure.
Oh,
Absolutely.
we actually do control a lot of the market.
Well, yeah, that's.
But it's certainly it's in partnership with Cincy Range, which is the collective that funds the NIL as part of University of Cincinnati. Our belief is that it's kind of a mashup. But we've studied a lot internally of like, why did this happen? And I think there's I can't remember all 7 pillars, but we have a slide that's like it's authentic, it's the right price, we have the right partnership.
Cincinnati's fiercely.
Yeah, I was going to say the biggest thing is that the fandom of Cincinnati, and certainly just from a marketing perspective, like if you really read about really good ways to market, you're like really niche when you have a tribe. So there's the UC tribe, but then there's the Cincinnati tribe too. So and it's certainly far exceeded our expectations. I mean, and we know like now in terms of managing it, we're like in terms of managing expectations and other innovation. Let's remind the powers that be that is, you know, it's like that's a unicorn. That's I don't know that I can deliver that again next year. So talking about things like that, but it's from the support of Cincinnati. That's why you were talking about Cincinnati and kind of the fighting spirit or the resilience. I think that brand.
Maybe that's why I haven't given up on the Bengals yet, because I'm still resilient.
Yeah, I think that brand is a testament to that spirit, and there really is this Cincinnati thing.
Because it's been a rough season so far.
Oh, I know. I have several coworkers that want to call off sick after another loss. So.
Yeah, at least we have UC.
I'm like, no, you have to come to work today. Sorry.
So when we were talking resilience, and there's several guys are expanding, you keep growing. So when you try to grow and build into a new facility, is there like worries? Hey, is this going to work? Or, you know, I'm excited that I have not been to your new one. I'm planning on it, and obviously I'll be at. And Third Eye, I've been to Hamilton a lot more than I thought I would be going to, but you know.
Yeah, like just speaking to ours, like it was a few years in the works. So like you're asking like were we afraid that it wouldn't work? Yeah, of course. But also I think we did enough homework. We really understand our demographic and like who comes to 50 West and why they come to 50 West. And so we went out and looked for that demo, right? I happened to grow up in that area, so I knew it existed. I knew that those kinds of people were there. We're looking for families, right? Like we want the entire family to come to 50 West. We want you to bring your kids and your dog, and we're gonna like try to delight the whole family. And so, yeah, like everything from our food offerings to the beverage offerings, we're trying to do that like holistically, give you something to do inside the space. And so we just took all the learnings that we had, and tried to perfect the space.
Yeah, you guys have a really strong, I feel like, vision, and you carved out over the years exactly what you are. Worked well at the mothership. Yeah. And how do you bring that? I mean, it was
a long time coming. Look, we started in 2012. We were like pretty early in the craft beer wave. You know, 50 West is the brew pub, worked for a long time, and then like craft beer kind of outgrew it, and we proved it, by the way, because we reopened the brew pub and then no one came, and then we closed it back down. So like that part of I think like craft beer, not even just 50 West, I think that part of craft beer is kind of like we've moved past that. And then it's probably the only thing in our company's history that we ever like caught fire with, right? We've had success with beer, and continue to do so, and continue to put time and effort and energy into it. But it's the first thing that we ever did where it was like, oh, that's lightning in a bottle. And so we just like dove into it. We paid attention to it, and we paid attention to who was coming, and we took tons of feedback. Everybody from every level of the company worked in the burger bar. I've literally made fry sauce. I've worked the bar.
That's the Starbucks model too, by the way, right? Like you have to be a barista before, like if you get whatever job you get, you have to do a stint as a barista.
Totally. Like when we opened, and I love it because like when we opened Deerfield, I worked the bar for the first like 3 weeks, and I went back to the brewers and I was like, oh my God, guys, I figured out all this guys like what people really want to drink, and of course I was probably wrong, but it was. I think that's part of it, and so we were afraid, like any business would be afraid that we're like taking a big risk, and we're employing all these people. It's more about the people, right? That like we have to, employ these people and keep, they're trusting us with their job. So there was fear there, but we, speaking from 50 West point of view, that we did our homework first, so we were confident.
We're in the same boat. So Parks and Rec, our new location that'll be opening up sooner than what we were expecting at first. For the first time, I think, in history, construction is ahead of schedule.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Great.
So I think they're going to announce the official date pretty soon. Then Alcove, that was a whole different feel than what like Madtree 2.0 tap room is. Mm-hmm. And it was a very strategic move, especially with that location down in OTR. We wanted to still have that feel of Madtree, of connecting people to nature and each other. And we felt that space just we could really encapsulate that. Having the greenhouse there definitely really helps. All of the iconic live wall that we have behind the bar there, the big fern chandelier. It was the same thing that Max was just talking about. It's just really researching that area. What do those people really want that are going there? How can we differentiate ourselves? And then Parks and Rec is going to just be like 2.0. If we could rebuild it again, this would be what we would do down in Oakley, but it's going to be up in Blue Ash. It's really cool that it's going to be in Summit Park. Also 8 minutes away from my house, so I'm so excited. Unfortunately, we will not be like doing production there, so I'll still have to go down to Oakley. But it's going to be kind of like the same thing of just pulling in those families, getting those suburbanites that don't want to come downtown or to Oakley or further, and just really kind of helping create those memories while they're there with their families.
I think for Third Eye, Hamilton, Sharonville, we were it's just like we got lucky with the location there, being next to the convention center. Duke Energy now closed. All those events are coming over to Sharonville, right across the street. A lot of hotels, the Princeton. So Sharonville has just always been kind of a good tap room. Probably would be one, and we could have probably terrible beer. I think it would still be a pretty good tap room. But we were maxed out, and I think we all wanted to see what we could do. Just not crazy distribution, but some cheap warehouse space in Hamilton, and I think it was risky, but not like a huge risk. We weren't putting in $10 million or anything. I think it was a calculated risk, and we're at this point glad we did it.
No, I love seeing growth and stuff like that, but you see some other places that expand and they not only shut down, they shut the whole thing down, and it's like, it's just, my Moeller Brew Barn in Troy has been one of them, so it's just amazing sometimes when you think someone's growing, doing well, then all of a sudden it all just comes back crashing down.
It's an interesting time right now. It's we think a lot about those types of things too. I mean, in terms of new locations and things like that. I mean, it's a completely different business model too. So depending on, like Max said, shifting more into kind of the brew pub or the experience space, there's a lot to think about there.
Yeah, we were seriously floating opening a second production facility back in like 2018 when a lot of the national brands were opening, other coast facilities, and we internally voted not to, and it's a very, very good thing that we didn't.
I know, I think about that all the time.
Yeah, exactly. But I think a lot of us saw the writing on the wall. We're like, I don't know if I want to buy Stone in Ohio anymore when it's being shipped across the country, and when there's so many local options that are just as good and fresher because they're next door.
Right. So talking with THC and stuff, some of you guys are dabbling in it, some of you guys haven't. Because Ohio still hasn't made a decision. I know the sample went through the state house. I don't know if it ever went through. So how is the line in THC?
What's the question?
How to navigate the THC?
Yeah, so like Ohio's considering banning it, right? Ohio Senate Bill 326, I believe. Bobby actually spoke at the hearing on behalf of all Ohio craft brewers. He's a part of the OCBA board, and it's like we make one of the products to be transparent. It's called Sunflower. We just released it. So we had it internally for a while because we literally couldn't go to distro because we were selling too much of it. And then it took us like 5 weeks to actually make enough to get it out into the world. So we've actually only been selling it at distro for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 weeks. And yeah, Ohio is considering banning it. We don't believe that they will. Like I said, Bobby spoke at the hearing. There's a lot of protection in like so it's hemp-derived THC, and it's separate from cannabis, right? The hemp has been legal for a very long time, and it's federally legal. And so, it's state by state right now. Ohio, it seems like there's a lot of protection and support in the world of hemp. So we think it'll still stay as a legal thing. I don't know, Hannah, if you have something to say about that. I know you guys make the product as well.
I'm not super familiar, so I follow Baseline, but there's so many other things that come across my desk that I haven't been able to keep up with that specifically. I do know that Scotty Hunter, one of the owners of Urban, I don't know if he went to that talk, but he has been keeping up with it. Our THC line, Coast Hollow, I know everybody is kind of waiting with bated breath on whether or not it's gonna. I mean, obviously they're gonna try to do or implement more regulation.
Yeah, which would be great.
Yeah, because there are a lot of companies that are putting chemicals into their beverages or consumables in general that are not regulated. They're not safe.
Right.
So I think as a industry or as a company, if you're wanting to do a THC or a hemp-based product, you need to make sure that you're starting your baseline with something that you know is safe. Because then you don't have to backtrack. You don't have to cover your ass. You don't have to worry about making changes to your recipes. You know it's going to work. Which is why we have quite a few different milligram levels. I think we did an orange soda Coast Hollow. Now I think it was 25 milligrams.
Yeah, you guys have a 25 single.
Yeah, I'm afraid to drink that one. But we also have a 10 and a 5, and then I think we're also testing out like the 2.5 milligram ones.
Yeah.
So I think just being cognizant of what you're putting into your own creation, and regardless of whatever the decision is, you're going to be safe. So to start out honest with yourself, and then hopefully things will turn out for the best.
Yeah, I think even more so with the regulation. That's obviously, yeah, for sure. But I'd love to see the government age gate it. I'd love to see them put it through. Like we should tax it like beer. We should, require. I think it should run through the alcohol system, right? Like craft brewers are perfect partners for this kind of beverage. It shouldn't go to the cannabis players, right? We should be able to sell it at convenience stores and grocery stores and such. And it should be age gated like alcohol, and you should have to do label approval and all the good stuff that we do with alcohol, right? Because we're all used to doing that. It protects the consumer, and like there's a serious demand for it. People know how to consume it, like they know how to approach it in our space. It's not people treat it the way that you would want them to treat it. Like it's not, people aren't being hooligans with it. Like it's mostly like, to be honest, we have a lot of families at 50 West, and there's a lot of like dad brings the kids baseball team in and the coaches are drinking sunflower and the kids are drinking milkshakes, and like it's like the demographic isn't who you think it is. It's everybody and anybody. And I think, if the state regulated it, it would open the entire industry up. Because a lot of the players, especially like the wholesalers, that's like the key to the market. If the wholesalers feel, they all want to carry it. All the wholesalers want to carry it. They're all afraid to do it because they have federal licenses. And so if we can regulate it and the state gives it a stamp of approval, then the entire market will explode. It's ripe for craft brewers. We're trying to protect it at the state level for everybody in the industry. Like we think, like what Bobby went up and said at the state hearing wasn't like, in self-interest of 50 West. It was, hey, like all craft brewers should be able to do this. This shouldn't go in the hands of cannabis. It should be regulated like alcohol, and we should sell it through distributors. It should be 3-tier. It should, we already sell to retailers that are used to age gating, right? Like this is a pretty normal thing. There should be normal, we'll put specific things on the label. We'll do label approval and sell it like alcohol, and it should be low dose, in my opinion. Like I don't think we should do the 50 and 75 milligram stuff. Like it's like I think like there should be, that stuff should be limited to dispensaries. And then, the 5 milligram stuff, the 10, even the 25, right? Like that's all okay for, it's just like, if you think about it like alcohol, it's like you can buy low spirit at the grocery store, but then you have to go to a liquor store to buy it. It's the same thing, right? Like let's all make beer, the beer version of THC.
Let's say if that did go through the way you guys would want it, would it lead some of you guys, others that haven't fully gone in thinking about more of doing it?
I mean, I will say that we've been watching and thinking about it for a while. It's the legislation and the balancing the risk of putting the resources in and then it getting shut down. Like it's been shut down in California and in New Jersey. It's an interesting product. I think there was an article that came out today in Craft Business Daily it was talking about Minnesota, and they're just killing it with I love the term intoxicating hemp, because I'm like, what is it? It's hemp-derived cannabis, THC, Delta 9. There's also so much confusion out there too. If you look at all it's the wild west. I mean, it's just fascinating.
I mean, the amount of comments that we get on our social media posts regarding Coast Hollow about how we have the weak THC.
There's a lot of consumer confusion out there too. I would say it might have been two years ago talking about it. To be frank, I'm a THC fan, Tracey personally, and so I remember being like, what is this Delta 9 shit? Like I don't understand it. It felt very, what am I putting in my body? It feels kind of like,
it's branded poorly.
That's why it's so fascinating.
But like Delta 9 is THC, exactly. It's the same plant, right? Hemp and cannabis,
It's just
right.
It's just the one cannabinoid instead of all of
But
them.
Yes, exactly. So it's the same. Like we write on the can, which is it's kind of fun. We write real THC on the can, just to like try to like it's obvious to anyone like you that it is, right? But like. I think Delta 9 is just a poor brand name. Like why, it's like bad marketing. It's just normal THC.
Well, and because it came on the market too, and then you're like, what do you mean it's THC? I thought THC was, it's just So, I mean, being someone from marketing, I'm just fascinated watching the early brands that are playing in the space and seeing how their messaging. I've certainly changed my perception of Delta 9. They were talking about in Minnesota, they was talking about it's like 35 to 50-year-olds. Primarily, they kept saying soccer moms, which I thought was really fascinating. So I literally was just thinking about this morning. I think there's a completely different occasion. So there's some occasion swapping, like instead of wine, I'll have this because it'll give me, it's low cal, low sugar, most of them, right? Some of them, right? The ones that I would choose to drink.
It depends on like what batch you're making, right?
But
Like Cristal's more of a soda.
Are you swapping it for a beer? Are you swapping it for wine? Are you swapping it, having this instead of a high noon? But then I also think if you look at the consumption of cannabis and all the other different forms, and when somebody might sneak a quick hit before they have to go deal with X, Y, and Z, I'm just curious to see if there's new occasions out there.
I think that there are, and like, God forbid my sister would listen to this, she wouldn't. But she's a stay-at-home mom, and she has 3 kids, and her fridge is full of these things. And like before we started making them, I gave her a bunch of ours, but like before we started making them, she had a bunch. And yeah, I can't imagine a world where she was like sneaking a glass of wine or a beer before like doing whatever with the kids. But like I'm pretty sure she's drinking these things.
It hits different.
Yeah, it's a different kind of intoxication. And yeah,
So it's fun. Yeah, it's
and
just fun to watch.
it's also like it's non-alc, right? So like, that was part of the reason we explored the category at all. We were, watching the rise of non-alc and athletic doing super well, and we were like considering like, okay, what would we carry in our own space? We don't like carrying other brands in our own space, so I was like, okay, we can carry athletic, or we can try to make our own. We tried to make our own non-alc. Didn't go well. It's kind of unsafe to pour it over draft lines. It was like, hey, let's not do that. Then we made hop water, and we still sell it. It's kind of like a token beverage that we have. It's a great offering. It doesn't get like a ton of play. We're gonna keep making it, but it's there to like serve that person that wants to feel like they're participating. They don't want to drink a water, a milkshake, or some soda, and they look like they're having a beverage in a social setting with their friends that are engaging in beer, or wine, or whatever. And then it was like this idea that a non-alc could also be intoxicating and diversify that portfolio. So now that like when you go to 50 West, there's like, hey, there's non-alc so you can have that won't mess you up, and then there's some that will. That was a cool idea to me, and then that's when we started looking further at it. But like the old Mark Twain quote, like Cincinnati's like, we're not originators in this space. There's people are doing this all over the country, and especially craft brewers.
And I mean, I think if you look at like the bill that Newsom signed and he backed it and everything, it's pretty obvious that they're using needed regulation as an excuse to. The cannabis companies don't want this to be sold not through their dispensaries, and the state wants their 10% excise tax or 15 or whatever. So like in Ohio, it's 10%, and you buy THC through a dispensary, they're not getting that tax. So
right. So they need like we should keep it inside craft beer. We should we should allow the state to tax it.
Exactly.
And then we should
all
have
no incentive to pass these bans on it.
Exactly.
Yes, it should be age gated. I mean, it's still
For sure.
intoxicating.
Like you're drinking a can of ours right now. I know people that are listening to this can't see this, but like the can, thank you. The can says 21 plus on it. Like we don't have to write that on it, but we choose to because it's like, hey, that's the right thing to do.
I have seen a lot of beverages, THC-based beverages that'll put instead of non-alc, it'll say an intoxicating beverage.
Yeah.
Which is,
it should do that. I mean, just as a mom of teenagers, like that needs to be very clear.
yeah.
I like what that is. It's got all over the front of it, like.
We put the weed leaf on it, so
Right,
it's
exactly.
like the same as like what cannabis is
Yeah.
doing. We don't write intoxicating on it. Maybe we should, but we do write THC really big on the front, so it's like what you're getting.
Yeah.
It's not like mimicking as something else.
Are you guys getting at Urban or at 50 West? Are you guys getting like negative comments or negative feedback from I just wonder, like,
I was
the
prepared
adoption
for it.
and the perception and.
I was prepared for it, like especially at a family-friendly place. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this could be dangerous for our brand. 0%.
'Cause
Not one comment.
I've heard some people say, well, it's weird, like they're with their families and they're gonna drink a THC beverage. And I'm like, but well, why is that different than having a beer?
It's like the world that we're like moving into, right?
That's
like,
why it's just, it's a curious thing to think about.
And you got people like me that drive a forklift for a living, and
Sure,
I
and then
can't even think about
That's why
trying.
it's the Wild Wild West, it's just, it's
That's
kinda-
one thing I would love to see change is somehow with these drug testing, some way find it where they know you did not do it before. That's another thing I wish could get updated a little bit. Because with the breathalyzer, I can drink a beer, go to work the next day, and nothing's gonna affect me. But with THC, you just
30 days.
It's just a fun thing. Isn't it a fun business to even have the consideration to be thinking about it? I mean, that's what I just think is so cool in craft beer, or a lot of, I'll say the larger players, or maybe it's smaller, having to think outside of the craft as well, because that's where consumers are going, right?
Right.
What we've heard is that it's not the frequency of drinking isn't changing, but the frequency of coming back to the same thing, or coming back to craft. So they're still drinking craft, but maybe they're drinking a bourbon or an RTD or I guess a non-out or something else, and they're still drinking an IPA, but maybe it's not the same it's not at the same frequency.
So you're saying if bourbon went right back up, all you guys are building distilleries? I'm
That's
kidding.
a lot of money.
I'm joking.
I think at the end of the day, that's why a tap room offers liquor and non-alcoholic beverages, low alcoholic beverages, high alcoholic, the mid-tier. That's why there is variety. And THC beverages just adds another tab to your little folder of what can we give you while you're here that's going to make you stay and or keep coming back.
Then you see NA coming up as well. Is that something all you guys are? I know Urban Artifact is, but has any of you guys experimented with it more?
I think just Cincinnati breweries in generally are really good at just flavors, and I think that if a brewery's sales or distro's gone down because of the market, I think it's a great way to use something that we already we're all good at flavors in Cincinnati. So if we can kind of use that to almost pay for our passion projects or the things we really like to do.
That's well said.
But yeah, I think it's great to I've becoming a more and more fan of bourbon, probably just like everybody, and that's something I can see as a passion project. And maybe I've got to use some THC beer down the road to kind of pay for some passion thing or something that I really want to do. So I think it's a great way to make up for, if you have an empty tank or you've lost some demand because of the market conditions, then I think it's a great way to do the things you want to do and stay in business.
We kind of messed around with making an NA. It's probably been now 2 or 3 years ago. We tried, the yeast route. We tried everything that we could do just to make a consistent product, and it wasn't meeting our quality standards. So we kind of just put it on the back burner. It's like, well, other people are doing this really well.
Yeah.
We can focus on other things that we know that we can do to that same extent, and just carry Athletic in our tap room and make sure that we're appeasing those people that are coming in with the other groups. It's one of those things of, do we want to develop the money into this right now, or can we really focus on some other things that we know we can use our current equipment with to still diversify ourselves?
Yeah, you can't hide mistakes in the beer and not at all. I've learned that much in all the sensory meetings. So
So yeah, to her point, the pasteurizers are huge.
Yeah.
They're big, long tunnels that just spray hot water on top of the can. We don't have room for one here. So even if we want to, we wouldn't be able to make one internally, basically, to be safe, because you have to pasteurize non-alcoholic beer. If it doesn't have the alcohol, to prevent it from growing scary things like E. coli. Beer can't grow.
McDonald doesn't.
So yeah, so we just don't have space out here for a ton of pasteurizer. So we've looked into it, but we would have to have it made at a contract facility if we did one here.
Yeah, and we looked into that same thing, and like the numbers that they told us that we would have to sign off, just the minimum, it's like, oh shit, we know we can't sell that amount for the entire year.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're just stubborn. We don't like not doing things ourselves.
So let's talk about beer trends. What's some beer trends that excites you right now in the beer world?
Tracey, tell us about Craft Light.
How about Craft Light?
I was gonna say my
Craft Light.
idea is just the opposite.
Craft Light beer.
I mean, obviously, light lager's all a buzz right now. In that, just talking early on with what Travis was saying, you know, when craft went into, we all tried to jump into lighter beer years ago. I mean, Rhinegeist, we had Cougar early on, the Blondale, but then we did Cheetah. And I mean, lots of people jumped in from a lighter taste profile, but we had it priced at craft. So I mean, we still have Cheetah. It's a small brand for us, but Cincy Light coming in priced at domestic is really what the game changer has been for us on light beer. Consumers, I don't think they want to pay, you know, for light lager. They don't want to pay. The value exchange is not there. So I think that's obviously one of the key reasons that Cincy Light took off so quickly, is that it's priced right, but the quality is there for sure. Other trends, obviously, that is just so fascinating, is just the continued trend for imperial everything.
That excites me already. I like imperial stuff.
Especially the C-Store 19.2s. It's such a, never would have predicted that.
I was such a disbeliever in that, because like I hate when categories emerge from one player, and I'm like, hey, that's not a new trend. That's just one guy doing well. But it truly did bleed out into like resurgence amongst high ABV beer.
Yes. So we have a very, very small, on the like Upper East Coast, distribution company that loves 19.2s of teak. Sometimes you can find them in Kroger. I would not want a 19.2 of teak. Like, I'll chug some teak on draft, but dear God, a 19.2, that's so much, like, cool. You know, the labels look really dope because, you know, we've got the cool little wizard, and he can be taller on those cans, which is always a passion of mine, to be taller. But I wouldn't be a wizard. Maybe then I'll get all my laundry done. But I do enjoy, and maybe it's more of like the Midwest. I'm originally from Missouri, so I follow a lot of like the actual Midwest beer trends, and I love seeing a lot of the breweries do just like basic beers, like a Czech Pils or a Vienna Lager, and I love seeing smaller breweries get back into just the basic bitch beer recipes and nailing them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Doing a really, really good job, because they can. And, you know, Urban has been successful because we found our niche. And if a smaller brewery somewhere out in the middle of BFE can find their niche making really good basic beers, I'm going to be there, because, I mean, you can't find that everywhere. Everywhere has, like, the quadruple hop IPA, which I love IPAs.
It is fascinating though, like the IPA trend, just like working in beer. And it's not new. I mean, it's been around for years.
I was in the military, and then after I got out, I moved to Washington State for brewing, and a buddy of mine shipped me a whole bunch of Truth, and because I loved Truth, I still love Truth, but my poor old lady stomach doesn't enjoy IPAs as much. But I was always so excited to get my hands on Truth. And West Coast IPAs are way different.
Yeah.
Way different than Midwest IPAs.
So yeah, I mean that what you were saying about the classic styles. I wonder if it's that. Still, personally, for me, it's that things got so extreme for so long, and I liked them at first. I was big into the double IPAs and the Imperial Stouts. Then they got so extreme into that. I think this is just the natural reaction, the natural kind of clap back to. I don't want a pastry stout that's 1,400 calories and 8 ounces right now.
So I 1,000,000% agree, and I was like holding that comment for a little while. And asking her, does she think that it's a reaction to that? Because I have the same theory.
Yeah.
I have the same theory.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Yeah, it has to be,
Absolutely
right?
is.
So too
Things got way too sweet.
Yeah, too sweet,
Yeah.
too indulgent.
And like, there's definitely an occasion for chocolate cake stout or something. But if I go to a bar and that's all they have, and
Yeah,
all
you
I'm
can be
drinking are
overwhelmed.
beers, it's like, what am I going to do? Am I going to order 2 12% stouts? Or,
So I've always had this analogy about like going to the supermarket and choosing dinner, right? Like there's the produce section, and there's like the meat and fish, and it's like for craft beer for a minute it was just the candy aisle,
Yeah.
and it was just like, wait a minute, like I'm not having candy for dinner. Why is it only candy? And it seemed like every fan of beer, and like still a lot of fans of beer, right? Probably a lot of people that are going to listen to this podcast are like, no, that's the kind of beer I drink. What are you talking
That's
about?
fine.
And yeah, I mean it's not enough to sustain all of us.
Exactly.
Like, and I think that's hard
The
to.
volume's not there, right?
No, not at all. So yeah, I like breweries going back to the core brands, going back to flagships, going back to like pushing, what's worked for them, and then searching for innovation, right? So like to answer your original question, like what beer trends am I excited about? I love what we're doing with our tap room and the offerings that we put out. We have 2 small batch facilities that create like fun sours that are super fruited and stuff like that. But like, what am I most excited about? Like, I operate a lot of our sales, and like we sold 3,000 cases of a vodka seltzer over our own bars that like we've never sold a distro. So like, yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm excited about like things that like we delighted a ton of people. We like unlocked like a need at our bar that we didn't even know existed. So yeah, I think you gotta search for stuff like that right now.
I'm really excited just, seeing some local breweries doing some Kolsch service, having the right glassware.
That's so cool.
Oh, did you say Kolsch? Yep.
Kolsch service. I would love to see more breweries, just if we get more into these lagers, just having the perfect glassware. I think Cincinnati already does a great job of producing the styles, but just having just great glassware, almost like Belgium, where you've got each brand's got its own glass. I would love to. Cincinnati tap rooms could get really fine-tuned into the glass and do some of these really great tasting lagers above and beyond just your light lager, but your really flavorful lagers that are just so wonderful.
We talk about that a lot too, craft lagers, and really get into that stuff.
We made a bet on that for the last 2 years, and like put one in cans. We did. It rotated at first, and we did like a Helles, a Maybach, a Helles, a Pilsner, and something else that's eluding me right now. And then we switched it to just pills. It was distributed at Kroger. Didn't work very well. It's kind of a tap room thing.
I think it's more of a tap room kind of only thing. I don't know if it's distros quite ready for it, but
they are in certain parts of the country though. Because like when I'll be transparent. Like when I pitched it to Kroger, the Kroger guys were like, "Oh yeah, we see this on the West Coast. This could work."
Yeah.
And then like it didn't work very well. So
I think we're just at the cusp of having breweries that can specialize just in the niche things like that. Like Denver, they're brewery scene is just a little bit more mature and older than ours. But I think we're just at the cusp of having like a brewery that just specializes in great lagers. But right now, I think we're just below that level. We still have to diversify enough to get everybody.
Yeah.
I think we're on the verge there.
In general, I think that as far as future goes, you always see the beginning of a trend start on the West Coast.
Yes.
And then it just kind of passes down to the East Coast.
Yeah, definitely.
If only the West Coast could give us their fresh hops.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that Michigan as a state is looking into because of the climate change and the soil change in the Pacific Northwest. There's a few states on the East Coast and Michigan colleges looking into agricultural studies for creating the hops out here because, I mean, you have the fires in the Pacific Northwest ruining a whole bunch of crops. Yeah. So maybe one day, here in like 10 years, will be the Fresh Hop Festival.
Yeah.
And people from Seattle will come out here.
Let me ask you a question. Did you have your Sierra Nevada celebration this year?
No.
Didn't? Do you not like that beer?
No.
You haven't had that one yet?
Uh-uh.
Oh, that's their fresh hop beer.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I feel like it's like it's a once a year thing for me.
Yeah, no, I
I was hoping we could bond over that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll be honest. My refrigerator is filled with sake, White Claw, and Urban Artifact beer,
Hell yeah.
and orange LaCroix. And that's my...
I think that's diversified enough.
In my freezer, I have a bottle of Fireball because everyone at work knows that I'm a White Claw and Fireball girl.
I can get on board with that.
Or Miller Lite and Fireball.
But Fireball is the common.
Oh dear God, yes.
Which one's it?
I think that one's very different.
The darker one.
I think it's
Light.
I think it's the next one.
This one or this one?
That one. That's it.
All right, we touched on it a little bit. So, what are beer trends you wish would go away?
Pastry stouts. You don't need to put Lucky Charms and shit. Make it go away.
So, I'll say maybe not the flavor or anything. What worries me is breweries not claiming ingredients. I'm worried that there will be somebody with a nut allergy that gets something with a hazelnut in it that's not on the label. I just feel like there's some lapses in regulatory things that could potentially land somebody in the hospital or worse, and that would not be good for craft brewery.
Well, it's strange because the TTB doesn't require it.
Right, which makes no sense to me because allergens should be, we list every allergen in everything we make. I think probably every beer does. But there are small breweries that don't, and that worries me.
I want to know
entire industry.
who you guys talk to at the TTB because they overanalyze every ingredient that we put on our label.
Yes.
Like there are things that we put on our label that we put on labels before, but we'll submit it to the TTB, and they'll be like, "No, I don't know what that means." I'm like, "Bruh, we've had this on the label for the last 5 years. What's your problem?"
You get different people when you
Yeah,
say
they're
that,
all-
and they're just like,
Yeah.
It's like the lottery.
And that
We
reinforces the point.
were within the last month or so, I think, asked, "What do you mean by almond?"
oh, like they were confused about almond?
Yeah, like they asked, yes, okay, when we advertise that it has nuts, we say it has almonds in it. And they wanted us to describe what almond meant. Like, I don't know what to say to you, man. It's a nut.
It comes from a tree.
Yeah. But
I think
maybe
there's-
some more streamlining.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of breweries claiming almond, and it's probably maybe some extract that doesn't contain almond, and there's probably just a lot
The
of
flavor
confusion.
is almond is just benzaldehyde, which is the same chemical that is cherries, which technically doesn't have any nut protein in it. So if you're just using pure almond extract, it doesn't have allergens in it. If you're using benzaldehyde extracted from almonds themselves, it will have the nut allergy.
Is that why those two flavors taste so good together?
Yes. I mean, they're the same thing.
Yeah.
Cherry flavor and almond flavor are the same kind of thing. They're
It's like cherry and almond are so good together.
Yeah. They're cousins. They can grow on the same tree.
Oh wow.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I love it.
We need to take you to trivia.
So, Brittany, do you guys need to start growing cherry trees and almond?
Yeah, we could do that at Summit Park. Yeah, that'd be cool.
That would be cool.
Cross pollinate them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
Yeah.
can put a branch on the tree with the cherries on it.
that's
A
cool.
lot of trees you can do that with.
So, with 2025 coming very soon, what are you guys expecting in 2025?
We're expecting growth. And we got some really good feedback from our distribution partners. Obviously, we're opening up the third tap room very soon, and we are still dabbling in contract brewing, so that's also growing for us as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the year, every year since I've been working at Urban, we just say survive and thrive. Like, keep going. You know, the spring load-in is always super busy for us. And not even just for our own brands, but also the contract brands that we have. But they're also prepping for spring load-in, so we're prepping cubed for our stuff, their stuff, and then combined. But I think just, is it keeping your nose to the grindstone?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. In my head, I was envisioning it, and it was like, are we doing coke now? I think just like making sure you keep your shit together, being communicative across your business and your portfolio and your consumers, and just, you know, no one knows what next year is going to bring, so you just survive and thrive.
We are introducing kind of our next big innovation here any day now. So that's coming. It is an Imperial, by the way.
Awesome.
And then we're just leaning in, obviously, trying to expand Cincy Light from a distribution perspective, and then we'll be in year 2 of kind of the restaging of the Bubbles family, and got some great feedback this year with the seasonal offering, which was new for Bubbles. So we have the OG, but then you know, the peach cranberry and apple. But we'll be in year 2 of the citrus blend, tart cherry blend, and mango or tropical blend. So kind of excited to see how year two goes for that. Playing around with a few format changes, but we're focused right now. We're like instead of thrive and survive, which I feel you on that. The words we've been using the past 2 years are really around focus and prioritize. You know, gone are the days when we can launch or, you know, make 125 beers across all the formats. Of course, they didn't all make package, but we don't do that anymore. Thank the Lord. So we're focused on kind of building out, I will say, the sub brands under, or the brands underneath Rhinegeist and the Truth family, growing Cincy Light, and the Bubbles family is kind of where we're still focused right now.
Then one other thing I want to ask about Cincy Light. There was a couple of weeks ago I came in and you guys had a little table with different variants of Cincy Light. Is that something we could expect more in the future?
Probably.
Yes.
Yeah. Those are the things that we're talking about. So sure. But nothing's been decided.
I gotta get back to classic styles thing. 2019, we sold 157 different beers. We've cut that down drastically because there's just not a need for that so much, and many of those were outlets for our tap room, which doesn't get as much foot traffic anymore. So yeah, kind of consolidating so that we have more direct focus on what our beers are has been our main focus for the past 2 years.
Yeah, for us, like, so we opened Deerfield in like the 2nd or 3rd week of August. So we want to see, 50 West, the way it's set up with all the outdoor stuff. We're a warm weather focused, tap room. So yeah, 2025 will bring us learning about, how to run 2 at once, especially, in warm weather. Our biggest month is usually May. So this May will be pretty nuts. We're going to do some stuff at distro. We're, like I alluded to earlier, we're going to bring our vodka seltzer to distro, just to kind of meet consumer preference where it's shifting. We're going to keep doing, what works for us in beer. This year we introduced the IPA variety pack that's working, so we're going to keep doing that. Really just, we haven't seen a full year of our new tap room, and it's like our baby, so 2025 is going to look like us, trying to figure out how to run 2 at once, and make enough beer to serve 2 at once. I think our tap room, or our production facility can probably max out at 14 or 15,000 barrels, which probably sounds funny to these two. Making that much beer for ourselves in-house is, and fulfill everything that we've been doing at distro is going to be tough, because, when it comes to, you guys know it, when it comes to production of beer, it's not linear, right? We can't produce the same amount of beer in January that we do in the summer months, so, the demand's not there, the product could go bad, so, it'll be a learning year for us.
Yeah, for Third Eye, we're still relatively new brewery, so I think for 2025, there's a lot of areas of even Cincinnati that we don't have a presence in, so we might have a few accounts maybe around the east side of Cincinnati right now. I think for 2025, we'd like to just get a bigger presence in Cincinnati, northern Kentucky, maybe just over into Indiana a little bit, but there's just some smart growth, I guess.
All right. Thank you guys so much for sitting down and talking with me, and thank you for letting me come early on when I was really not sure what I was doing with this, but I appreciate you guys just coming on and talking beer with me.
Thank you.
Of course, man.
Thank
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the 2024 Craft Beer Summit Part 3 Cincinnati panel. We were at Rhinegeist. It was a fun time. I want to thank Tracey and Travis. Thank you so much for letting us come and having you guys sample your beers and also having it there. You guys were awesome. Thank you so much. And I also want to shout out John Luce for doing the Dane panel at Loose Ends. You guys are absolutely amazing. And I'm very touched on how everyone has been cooperative and wanting to do this, and I totally enjoyed every single one that's been part of these past 2 panels. I still got one more panel though. I'm not ready to spill the beans on who and what, who I'm talking to, but I think you're really going to enjoy that one. But I also want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays to everyone. This year has been nothing more but phenomenal of everything this podcast has done and everything. I'm just very, very grateful and merry, and can't thank the support I got from the breweries, from my friends and stuff like that. So hope everyone has great holidays, and I can't wait for you to hear what's next with the Blake's Craft Beer Podcast. Cheers.